Welcome, and happy to be here again after 4 years, I guess. Last time I presented at DKNOG was 2019, as far as I remember. But it's still that I present you something new about PeeringDB. So, first question, who knows about PeeringDB? Okay, there are a few. Second question, who has an account on PeeringDB? Almost the same. But there are still some who have never heard of PeeringDB, neither they have account of PeeringDB. So what is PeeringDB actually? So as the name says, it's something which we store information about peering. So, and what do you need if you want to peer, or let's more say to interconnect? So you need to know with whom to interconnect. That means we have information about networks. Second is most interconnections, they happen at internet exchange points. So this is the second object which we have in PeeringDB. This is internet exchange point, information about internet exchange points. Then also at IXPs, internet exchange points, you do public peering, but we have also, beside public peering, we have a lot of private interconnects. And private interconnects, they mostly happen at facilities. So this is the third object, what we have in PeeringDB. So networks, internet exchange points, and facilities, and everything around this. And this is nicely stitched together within PeeringDB. If you go to PeeringDB, you also see our global statistic. So we have more than 1,000 exchanges registered, 27,000 networks, 5,000 facilities, and so on and so on. Then we have new objects. I tell you about that in a couple of minutes. So roughly, I guess it was 7 years ago, we found out that PeeringDB is for our interconnection industry really crucial. And therefore, an organization was founded. It's incorporated in the US. It's a non-for-profit, and it's 100% funded by sponsorship. That means the usage, you as a user, if you want to register any object in PeeringDB, it's completely free. Meanwhile, this organization is a healthy organization. We have building reserves for the last 2 years. And next is what you ask, who can be a member of this association? Almost everyone. The only thing you have to have is you have to register at PeeringDB. That means you have to run a network, a facility, or an internet exchange. And second is only you have to subscribe to our governance list. And if you do, your organization automatically is a member of this association. That means as an association member, you can vote, and you can also be voted on the board. So, I should go back and point to this one. As an association, we also have annual general meetings, and the next annual meeting is in 1 month's time from now. So if you are a member, please don't forget to also attend this annual meeting and also to vote and have your say. PeeringDB, although an association, it's almost run 100% by volunteers. We have different so-called committees which take care of several tasks. So first of all, we have the so-called admin committee, which you could compare with a support department in a regular company. Then we have the operations committee. Of course, behind the website, there are a couple of servers which has to be taken care of. Then we have the outreach committee, which more or less is our marketing department. We don't have sales. But marketing, and last but not least, it's product committee. So PeeringDB, it has bugs, but what we are more interested in to develop features. And if you have an idea which should be in PeeringDB, please send an email to product committee, or even better, open an issue on our GitHub. So I'm not the only one from PeeringDB here. So we have a board. I already mentioned it. Over there is Joop. Please stand up. Joop is a board member, and he is also taking part of, or you are a member of the Ops committee as well. So we also have Christopher over here. Christopher, where are you? He is there. And Christopher is a member of the admin committee. So as mentioned, our work relies on volunteers, and we are currently looking for more volunteers in admin committee, outreach, and operation. If you are interested in, please send a short email to stuarts@lister.peeringdb.com. So this is what PeeringDB does. So meanwhile, the admin committee have to work on an average 30 tickets per day, and you see the steep increase in 2016. In 2016 was when the association was founded, and when we also moved the website to a new version. So since then, we have a steep uptake, and more than even before, PeeringDB is really crucial for our interconnection industry. So, I've said the product committee, this gathers information on new features, but what we also have done is we try to involve more volunteer contribution. The old source is on GitHub. If you want to contribute, you can do that. And for example, we have incorporated security changes from Amazon. We have also incorporated user interface changes from Google and other things as well. What were the recent product improvements? We have better support tools. So there's a so-called IXF JSON import. What's that? So there is a special format where the internet exchanges may report their participant list. And we are importing this participant list and are matching what we have in PeeringDB. And if there is a mismatch, we send an email to both the network and the internet exchange and say, hey, there is some mismatch, please resolve it. What we have also done is on the user side, we have enabled multi-factor authorization, which is really important. It's more or less should be standard nowadays. You can also enforce that users only are able to register from a special email domain. You can put in a list of email domains, and also you can force your users to periodically revalidate their accounts. So this is not that important anymore, I guess. We have put in new fields that you can see. So when has an organization or a network updated the last time their connection to internet exchange points, to facilities, and also point of contacts. It might be useful for you who want to peer with someone to see how well maintained is the other network's record. What we also did is authentication changes. We now support API keys. And what we did is we substantially rate limited unauthenticated API requests. So the reason for that was we saw some really wide running scripts hammering the database every other second. or almost every second. And if you looked at it, you immediately saw it's while running, using or querying the same networks every other second. On the other hand, we also rely on resources. We have to build resources for that. That means prices for our usage in the cloud goes up. And this typically is bad code if you query a database just 100 times per second. I mentioned already account security, two-factor authentication. Either you use a one-time password, or what you also can use is a security device. So going back, what we enhanced is also self-selection fields. So an exchange might now specify, for example, the service level. Is it an exchange which runs on best effort, which runs or does support at normal business hours, 24/7 support, or it's just not disclosed? And also the time of terms. No commercial terms, for example, a lot of community exchanges you can connect just for free. Or they are bundling with other services. You see internet exchanges which are a business unit of facilities, colocation operators, and they typically then bundle the interconnection service with having colocation with them. Of course, non-recurring fees. We also have exchanges where you simply, if you enter in or are connecting to exchange, you pay off one time and that's it. And the standard model, more or less, is that you have recurring fees. The same we have for facilities. A facility may specify whether it's the owner of the facility or it's a lessee. Then the information about substations. Does this facility have diverse substations? That means, is there redundant power? And also the available voltage services. Another item we are really working on and still working on is searching PeeringDB. So finding the right information heavily depends on how to query the database. And this sometimes can become a sum. So for example, if you only want to search for a substring and then you get hundreds of thousands of matches, that does not work very well. And also to combine searches with an AND or an OR or something like that. So we are still working on that. Same is what we introduced, I guess, a couple of years ago already is, so for every facility, you also have an address. And what we did is we now match the address to geolocation data. That means if we are able to find the geolocation data, it's in it. You are not able, or a facility owner is not able to change this, but we derive this information from the facility address. And with the geolocation data, we are, for example, able to do or to answer complex queries. For example, show me all other facilities in a radius of 50 kilometers from this facility, because you as a network might, for example, want to have a backup connection to some other facility. For exchanges, you are now able to filter on search criteria. I mentioned before, exchanges are able to categorize themselves on terms, on availability, and you can also query on these criteria. And for output, you're not only seeing the output on the graphical user interface on the website, but you also can say, okay, I want to have it as a JSON file or in CSV to later on work on it. A big issue where we still have to work on is on documentation. As mentioned, PeeringDB is running by volunteers, and you know the last thing you have time for is to document it. Even if you do it yourself and write a little program, or even in a bigger program, the last thing you do is to document this. And then your next colleague is writing your code and he says, oh shit, what is that? And here on PeeringDB, it's even if you are used to work with PeeringDB, it's easy. But for newcomers, it's a steep learning curve, how to use it, especially also for the API, for example. So we did a user survey last year, and we will do it this year as well to find out what are our users interested in and what should we do more or what should we do less, what do we right, what do we wrong. So last year already, we decided on having a new object. So I mentioned in the beginning that PeeringDB has information about networks, IXs, and facilities. But for interconnecting, you need at least one other object, and this is carrier. So a network operates on layer 3, it's on IP. And carriers, they operate on layers 1 and 2. But what do carriers? They, for example, provide bandwidth between facilities. They can transport you to an exchange port or to facilities. And that was the reason we introduced these object facilities. And this is really that we want to bring more value to our users to see how can you get from one carrier between different facilities. That means for the API, you have two new objects. This is carrier and this is carrier facility. Carrier facilities means this described which carrier is in which facilities. Unlike the networks who can just say, I'm in this facilities, the facility admins or owner must approve the presence of a carrier in their facility. And this should be also easy to do because if you are a carrier, this means you have layer 1 or layer 2 transport, and the facilities should know about that. So how do you add a carrier to your organization? Just go to your typical manage section of your object organization, and there is a tab where you can see add carrier, and then it's only a few lines to fill in, just the name, the website, and then you are done, and then you have the carrier object. And then what you can do is, okay, say, I am in this facility, that facility, and then you have to wait that the facilities approve your presence. The second thing what we did is to have a new object campus. And what is campus? Some might think, okay, there's something to do with universities. No, it's not. So as campus, you also see that some collocation operators, they have a lot of one or more than one building just nearby. So for example, if you look at Interaction or now Digital Reality in Frankfurt, they have meanwhile 17 buildings on a large campus. And that's the reason we want to have more structure into these facility object. And a campus, only an owner of a facility can create a campus and put in facilities of the same facility owner. So you cannot build a campus with facilities of different owners. So, and what do we do? So the biggest things for this year we have already done. This was the introduction of carrier and campus. This still needs some work, but we are waiting also for input. Do our users like this new carrier objects? Do they find it useful? For example, what we still do not have, you can only register as a carrier, but you cannot say, okay, I offer wavelengths, I offer dark fiber, I offer MPLS, I offer, you know it. Typically, we do one update per month, and if you go on our website, you will also find the dates for our releases. So what we do is we always have internal testing, then we have a beta release. There's a beta website, beta.peeringdb.com, where we have the new features, and then after 1 week, you can see we put it to production. And these are the days. So it's 2 weeks ago we put out 2.44, and I guess it's the week after next week where we have the next release. As mentioned, PeeringDB costs money, and we rely on sponsorship. We have different sponsorship levels, as little as silver sponsors, which is $2,500 per year. That means only $200 per month, and everyone is welcomed to sponsor because we need PeeringDB. It's crucial for our interconnection industry, and every single buck is welcomed. And with that, I'm on the end of my presentations and open for questions. Before you start your questions, I have to say I'm wearing hearing devices, and although I have hearing devices, it's sometimes hard for me to understand. So if you have a question, speak up loud and clearly, so as I do. So, any question?
I don't see any question.
So everyone is still working on their lunch internally, I guess. So there's one question.
Hi, I'm Henrik from Security, and I have a small question. What is the smallest network that you think should be added in the PeeringDB? If I only have a PI/24, should I add it to PeeringDB?
So actually, perhaps I forgot to mention, for us a network is someone who has an ASN, an autonomous system number. So if you don't have an autonomous system number, or other way around, if you have an autonomous system number, please register.
There was a question there.
Hi, I'm Lasse from DKNOG. Hi, Arnold.
Hi.
I don't have a question for you. I have a question for the room. How many people before you came here knew about PeeringDB and what it was initially? Maybe I should ask the other way around. Who did not? Okay, so a 50-50 split. Excellent.
I deliberately did not ask the question that way around. So,
Thank you, Arnold, for coming and enlightening us.
We still have one more question down here. We have one more question.
We have one more question.
We have one more question.
Maximilian from Uniberg. So you have a lot of hosting, CDN, whatever sponsors, and you talked about cloud costs.
come closer.
Do
I don't
you
get
accept donations also in terms of hosting services, or do the sponsors only send money and you buy the services on your own?
Once again, sorry, I didn't get it. Perhaps Joop, you are able to answer that.
I'm Job Snyders, one of the directors of the non-profit association PeeringDB. We do not accept offers in kind. The trick for PeeringDB to remain neutral is to take your money and then let the volunteers decide how they want to spend the money, which vendors they want to pick and work with. So although I understand the intention and it is generous to offer hosting services or other facilities, good old cash is the best way to contribute. And we do not accept Bitcoin.
Besides alcohol, huh?